The Halloween event is here, along with some new items, new cosmetics, and of course, just an overall change in the map, which is pretty awesome. This new event has brought to us a new hunter and just, new stuff to do. Nothing major changing in like the story or lore, but some new stuff to do in the game. So it only felt fitting that I finally make a build with the Pestilence. Like fits a little Halloween theme, getting poisoned in a way by the Plague of the Outcast. This is the talent that the Pestilence LMG comes with. And as we see here, I do have the attribute rolled damage to armor. Ideally, that's what you want to do since cores on LMGs already come with damage to targets out of cover. So I do have this rolled to max damage to armor, and of course this comes with the talent Plague of the Outcasts. Hits apply a debuff, dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds, and this stacks up to 50 times. And now whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to an enemy nearby that's 25 meters. Pretty self-explanatory. It's like you're applying a little poison to them. I like to refer to it as poison because it's not a status effect. I've seen debates and arguments on whether status effects affect this or not. It seems like the overall idea is this is its own thing. Nothing really affects it. I don't really think you can buff this heavily unless you're doing something that's like amplified damage overall and not just amplified weapon damage. That might affect the plague, but I just think of it as it's its own thing, and yeah, we get some poison in our build. Now that we're running an LMG, it just felt fitting to run the Tipping Scales gear set. Of course, it's a huge buff on LMGs. The 2-piece, we get a 30% magazine size. On the 3-piece, we get 30% LMG damage, and then we get the talent Full Throttle. This is essentially a different version of Striker. Shooting build stacks to a max of 50, and each stack provides us 0.5% weapon handling, 4% critical hit damage. We of course lose stacks when we're not shooting, and as long as an enemy is suppressed, we maintain our stacks. So kind of like Striker in a way, except we don't need to be directly hitting the targets. So long as we're shooting, we're keeping these stacks built. This is one of those gear sets that you kind of want to be running both the backpack and chest piece just because they buff this up so heavily. The chest piece maybe you can kind of swap out, but I think it gives you too drastic of numbers to really put it away. And the chest piece comes with sustainability, so this increases our maximum number of stacks from 50 to 75. Now with the chest piece, as you can see, I have this rolled to critical hit chance with a critical hit chance mod on there, and then we have this rolled to a weapon damage core. Now, like I said, you ideally do want to run the backpack with this, and that's because the backpack comes with the talent Snowball. Increases their critical hit damage that we receive per stack from 4 to 7. So it like nearly doubles it. So it's almost like mandatory to run the backpack. I don't see any other backpack talent being a better choice than the one that the gear set already comes with. So that's what we went with. So now, because we're running both the chest and the backpack, once we're at full stacks with this build, we're getting an additional 520% critical hit damage and 37.5% weapon handling. These are obviously big numbers, and it's numbers you want to hit. And for the backpack, we are running this. This is rolled to a critical hit damage attribute. We have a critical hit chance mod on there and a weapon damage core. Now, for the other 2 pieces we are running the knee pads. We have this rolled to critical hit chance with the weapon damage core, and we are using the mask that's rolled to critical hit chance with a critical hit chance mod and a weapon damage core. Now, for this build, I actually decided to go with the Overdogs exotic gloves. The Overdogs have been a really interesting piece to use lately, and that's because this comes with the talent Weakest Link. This amplifies our weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemy that we're currently in combat with. And we have a tier hierarchy here, tier 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see, all the different enemy classes that fall within each tier. Tier 3 you want to start with, and then you work your way up to tier 1. Now, in combat, this can be kind of hard to focus on, which I get. There could be a lot of people around. You could have different types of enemies focusing on you. I noticed these gloves worked, especially with this new event, fighting that new hunter. Once you eliminate all those little mini warhounds in the area, and you're kind of building up and maintaining, hopefully, your pestilence, by the time you get to the hunter, you probably have the pestilence stacks on the hunter, and then you are now applying this 30% amplified damage. I use this for that reason, and also because the Pestilence, compared to most other LMGs, doesn't hit hard like off the bat. Just like the general damage that it puts out. What really makes the weapon put in a lot of work is that talent, is that little poison we apply on enemies. So I decided to go with this just to have a bigger punch on the weapon's main weapon damage. And as you can see, these are rolled to double crit with a weapon damage core. Then to round things out, I decided to go with the Petrov Defense Group holster, just because this brand set gives us 10% LMG damage on that one piece, so little boost to our damage. And then I have this roll to double crit with a weapon damage core. Now, we went over the main weapon. The secondary, you can kind of run what you want. I'm switching out the secondary constantly. At the moment, I have the rock and roll on there, but I think I had the slingshot before, the dark winter another time. I'm usually switching it up depending on kind of what kind of content I'm doing. If this is something that's going to be more in your face, linear, kind of like a mission, I'll probably run the rock and roll. But if it's something more open world, enemies will probably more likely be further away from me than normal, then I'll probably run an SMG on the side. Now, not long ago, I actually added the quick step pistol. I know I don't really mention the pistols because you're not really using them, so there's no point in even talking about them in a build. But this one has made that a bit different. That's because this new named pistol comes with the talent Sport Mode. This increases our movement speed by 20%. Doesn't stack with any other movement speed bonuses, and you need to have the weapon drawn, so you have to have it in hand. You can't have it holstered. I don't know why that part's not included in there, but from what I've read and understood and seen, that's pretty much the case. But I have this rolled to a damage to armor, probably not using it. The reason why it's most effective is because you just switch to it when you need a move. You get that increased movement speed. This is probably going to be something everyone's putting on their builds unless their primary is their pistol. This is pretty much going to be the new go-to. And now for our specialization, I'm running my typical gunner. Whenever I'm running some sort of DPS build, I tend to run gunner just because I'm not really running blue cores right now. And having that armor on kill really helps us out, really works in clutch, especially if we compare that with the quick med kits. We're kind of back up at full health when we lose armor fairly quickly. Now, as for the skills, I am running the smart cover. Smart cover, I feel like, well, precision smart cover to be specific, I feel like just pairs well with an LMG style build. You're probably not running and gunning. You're most likely behind cover, sitting in place to place. So having the smart cover, it gives us some additional damage to targets out of cover. It gives us some additional weapon handling. Overall, kind of makes LMGs much more beamers when you're using the precision smart cover. Now for the mods on the precision smart cover, I do have a 4.5% cooldown mod and a 3% damage to targets out of cover mod. So gives us a total of 13% damage to targets out of cover when we're using this ability. And then for the second one, we are using the decoy. Decoy helps us catch a breather, let enemies look at something else while we take a moment. And for the mods on this, I have a maxed health mod and a maxed duration mod. Now we'll quickly run over to our stats. As you can see here, we're sitting at 56.1% critical hit chance and 78.4% critical hit damage. Of course, we reach over 600% critical hit damage once we hit max stacks with tipping scales. But there you have it. I hope you all enjoy the build. This was pretty fun to use. I was actually pretty surprised that I even, on the first use of this build, defeated the Hunter on my first try with this build. So it works out. It was pretty fun. But let me know what you guys think. What are you guys using for the Halloween event? What are you guys using if you're still using the Pestilence? It's been a while since I've used it. Comment down below. I'll leave you all with some gameplay, and I'll see you all on the next one.